who is in your Premier League 2020/21 team of the season? That's what I will be asking Shaun today, who is a Tottenham fan. Shaun, how are you?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Come on, sum up Spurs this season. You're in the you are in the poor man's Europa League. Sum up your season for us.
Season, it's been an up and down season. You'd probably have to say a poor season. But probably at the start, I thought we'd probably finish between 5th and 7th, and I think that's where we come. But it's been a strange season, what we've did, and I think most supporters would say the same, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Strange old season for all of us, that's for sure. But we'll get straight into your team of the season then, and we will start with your goalie. Who have you gone for in goal?
I've gone for the Villa keeper Martinez. I'd imagine he'd be quite a popular pick with all of your guests, really, because you only limited to us like 3 players per team. I think a lot of people would have gone for Ederson. I think on a normal pick, but Martinez, I think they bought him from Arsenal for 17 million. And he was, I think he was backup keeper for Arsenal. 17 million is a lot of money. I can't remember who he plays for. It's one of the South American sides, I think. Is it Colombia or someone like that? But I think, as it turned out, I think Arsenal probably sold the wrong keeper. I think he's been very consistent. I think Lloris has been good for Spurs. I think he can be a bit rickety, Lloris, but I don't think he's had a bad year. The blame for a lot of the goals has been more at the centre-backs and the full-backs rather than him. But I think Martinez, one of the more mid-table sides, 17 million is a lot of money for a goalie. It's a lot of money. But I think he's proved worth every penny. So I think they'd be fair to go for him, really.
Yeah. Quite a few people have gone for him, as you expected. And I thought it was a bit of a gamble at £17 million, but definitely paid off. And in most of people's team of the season, fantastic shot stopper. But we'll move out into your back four. We'll start on the right. Who have you gone for at right back?
Did I go Reece James? Did I see? Did I go for Reece James? Yeah. I found right back quite a tricky one, really. Again, I think you could probably pick 7 or 8 Man City players, couldn't you? Really, because they've been a standout. Is it Tuchel, the West Ham one? Is that his name? Did I pronounce that right?
Tuchel, yeah.
He's been very good. I think he was quite cheap for you as well. So I do like Reece James. Chelsea have had another strange season. Obviously, had Lampard in, didn't they? And I do like him. I thought he was going to make the right back spot for England his own, but I think Walker might now push him out a little bit. But like I said, it was a tricky one. There's not really been any huge standout. I think he's just a very strong right back. A little bit like Wan-Bissaka, who's playing now in the Europa League final. They're very solid. They're quick. They're not overly flashy. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a standout one. I don't know who else. I don't know what the most popular pick's been in your other guess or you'd go for, but it was a tough one. I think the right back.
Yeah, I thought of this, and I thought Reece James hasn't come up yet. Most people have gone for Vladimir so far, but we are filming this the night of the Europa League final, and I don't know what the score's going to be at the end, but Villarreal have just took the lead. They're beating Man United 1-0. We'll just have to wait and see on that. Obviously, the game will be finished before we end this. But yeah, madness that I've just seen that. But anyway, back to it. Yeah, Reece James is a name. I thought when that came in, I thought, yeah, that's a good one. No one's really come up with that yet. Very, very good for Chelsea. But we'll move into your centre back pair, and then of your 2 centre backs.
Well, the obvious one is Dias. I would imagine he'd be quite popular as well. Obviously, when you only allow like 3 Man City players, you've got to think tactically which ones you're going to pick. So I went for him. I read a report saying that I think he was another £50 million defender. So I think it's something like 400 million that Man City have spent on defenders now. And at last, now they look like they've got a £300 defence. But he has been brilliant. You can't fault him at all. I think he had one shocker, like a lot of players do, but he's been very solid. I was half tempted to go for a centre-back partner, John Stones, because most people probably wrote him off. Wouldn't surprise me if teams like someone like a West Ham were thinking, "Oh, I wonder if we could get him on the cheap." Do you know what I mean? You sort of thought he might drop down that sort of level, but we'll get on to Pep later. But that was another sort of. I thought he was done. The partnership with Diaz. I think the Laporte comes in and out, but I think Diaz is sort of lifted the others to another level, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? I think he is a special centre half.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I think the other centre half, Godfrey, is that right? Looking for Godfrey?
Yeah.
Yeah, just coming in the England squad as well. He's just crept in the provisional squad. I found this position quite tricky, this one, because again, who stood out? Van Dijk hasn't been there. I seen earlier before I come on that Alan Shearer picked his team and he went for Maguire, and I was thinking, really? I think like West Ham had a good season. Would you? I think on West Ham, I think I haven't picked any of their players purely because I think they've been a brilliant team. Do you know what I mean? So I couldn't really pick a standout performer. I think they've been a great, typical David Moyes side. Reminds me when he was at Everton. The unit, the how they work for each other. At Everton, I never really had any standout like what you call a genius on the pitch or a flashy, real flashy player. But together they work hard, they're organised, hard to break down, hard to beat. So, but anyway, went off topic there. Back to the centre half, Godfrey. He come from Norwich, didn't he? When they went down, I think again last season, the Norwich had a few good players and they lost a couple. They're coming up again now, and they've got 3 or 4 very good players again now. And I think they might even get raided when they come back up. The right back Aaron's, is it Buendia? We're talking like 30, 40 coming up from the championship. So, but I think Godfrey's been. I think Everton's sort of season fizzled out like a damp squib a little bit, but I think he's a very good player. I think him and Ben White, who crept into the England squad at the last minute, I think they're both very talented young centre backs who we need to keep an eye on next year. I think so. With the young up and coming one, who I think's had a solid, not his first season in the Premier League, but at a big club after another big move. I think they paid about 25 million for him or something like that. But a bit like Martinez, it's looked a lot of money, but I think he's had a good season.
Yeah, that is a very decent centre back pairing. But to finish off your back four, who've you gone for at left back?
It was Luke Shaw. Again, I think I'd imagine a few picked him as well. And again, probably like I said about John Stone a second ago, probably one that we thought a lot of people wrote off a little bit. And I think that might have been partly down to Mourinho. When Mourinho was at United, Mourinho looks to find the scapegoat. I think we've all worked that out. And he publicly slated Luke Shaw. I think I remember him saying that he actually talked him through a game from the sideline. But that's quite humiliating for a professional footballer to hear or read in the press about yourself. I think he's got fitness and sort of weight issues. That's quite evident. And I think this year he's been very, very good. I don't think Gareth Southgate sort of really rated him that highly. And he's had to sort of force the door open for England. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't start in the Euros, to be honest. I think the season he's had, he's very solid up and down the pitch. Good left foot. Can take a free kick. I think it was a no-brainer to put. I think Man City, is it Cancelo, who they got at fullback? Yeah. He might have been a popular pick as well, but again, it's picking the correct 3 Man City players, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree that perhaps he was wrote off and he's come back this season and proved the doubters wrong. But we'll head into your midfield then, and who have you got as your first player in the centre of the park?
Oh, you're going to have to help me out again now. Did I go for...
We'll go with Jack Grealish.
I got a Grealish. Again, I think he had an injury towards the end, but I think he's been brilliant. I think he's been really, really good. I think like a few teams, Everton were sort of near, I think they were on the top 8 for a little while, then sort of faded off, a bit like Everton. I think Southampton were even there quite in the top half for quite a long time in the season. And they faded off. But I think with Grealish, I think if you take Grealish out the Villa team, Villa are quite ordinary. And it's a shame he got the injury. I think he'd come back for the last couple of games. He was in the team when Spurs played them a couple of games before the end when they beat us. He didn't look as sharp. In fact, the best Villa player on that day was the Scottish lad. Is it McGinn? Is it McGinn, the midfielder?
Yeah, McGinn.
He looked very good. He was running rings around us, to be honest. But Grealish, when he's been fit, he looks very, very special. I hope the injury doesn't mean he doesn't start for England, because he was another one a bit like Luke Shaw that it looked like Southgate didn't really fancy. Almost like he had to play play people off the park, pick up player in the month awards just to make Southgate open his eyes. So, but yeah, I thought from what he did for 3/4 of the season, it was a bit of a no-brainer, really. And he can play in the centre. He sort of plays on the left side behind the striker. Like I said, a lot of teams now play the three behind the forward. He sort of drifts in, but he's the sort of player that can play anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll move on then to your second central midfielder, Ilkay Gundogan.
Yeah. So back to the Man City picking the three for City again, really. I think they obviously they used to have a Silva in the middle, didn't they? And Gundogan, he was in the team a little bit with Silva there, but this year he's made the place his own. I think he scored quite a few goals as well. Sure he went for a spell of scoring like 5 in a row or something daft like that from midfield. And I think it's a bit of a no-brainer putting him in as well, especially in a 4-4-2 where if I'm picking a 4-4-2, I want two centre midfielders that can do a bit of everything. They can put their foot in, they can assist, they can be box to box, they can chip in with 5, 6, 7, 8 goals a season. If you're playing 4-4-2, I think you need that. So for that sort of midfield, I think he ticked every box there. I think he had a very good season.
Yeah, I agree. Just before we continue, I would like to tell you about the sponsors for this series. It is the Blowing Bubbles magazine. Thank you very much to them for sponsoring this series. Here they are. So you can check them out using the link in the description down below. And if you use the code JCOX at checkout when you buy a yearly subscription of 11 magazines, you can get a £5 off. So a bit of a discount code for you there. You can get a £5 off a yearly subscription using the discount code JCOX. All of the information is in the description down below, so check that out. But we will move on with your team then, out to the right hand side with Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about this one. Like, I've got friends I was chatting to about this game on the final one now. He's got a habit of not turning up in big games, doesn't he? Like real sort of thing when it comes to semi-finals and that, he just goes missing. But I know he scores a lot of penalties, but he is a very, very talented boy. And I'm even not sure if I know banged on about this formation. He's probably the one which I wasn't sure about because he's not going to be a box-to-box or sort of midfielder. But he's a very, very talented boy. And I don't know if attitude gets the better of him sometimes. If the game isn't going his way, you can see him sort of chuck the toys out. And he was favourite for the PFA year for a long time. I don't think he's going to win it now, but I think he'd be in most people's team. I just maybe I bowed down the peer pressure in the end of my mind. I thought he had to be in it. Do you know what I mean? But he's definitely one of the talented players in the league. But you just think, go on, just do that little bit more. He's got it in the locker. But yeah, I thought I'd put him in purely on ability, and you can't really argue with his goals and assists either. I think they're quite high.
Yeah, I mean, his penalties dominate his goal tally, but yeah, you can't deny that him and Cavani, the second half of the season, have had a fantastic link up. Now, this is a really good shout as well, which I saw in your team that no one else has picked yet. Raphinha out on the left hand side.
Well, yeah, this is partly your fault again because you went 4-4-2, and I go back to what I said about West Ham having a great sort of team. Okay, a lot of people have raved about Leeds as well in a similar way. They haven't had many standout players because they just work for each other. But Raphinha on the wing, I think he come from Nice in the French league, I believe, something like that. Wasn't cheap, but I think he's a very special player. He beats players for fun. He can score goals. And if you want, he's like an old-fashioned winger type. So when you went 4-4-2, I want Leeds a break with pace. He sort of is electric down the wing. He scored about half a dozen goals, I think, which is not a bad return for the first season of Premier League.
Yeah.
I don't know who else. If you're going to pick someone else to go wide, I'm trying to think who else you would go for. I think some people might have gone for Son, possibly from Spurs.
I mean, some people have gone for the people like Foden and Mount. They've put in there, and there's options.
Foden is going to be class, but again, we'll talk about Pep in a minute. But Foden, I might be completely wrong. I don't think with Man City he tends to move the team around. So Foden might be man of match 1 week, then he's on the bench. Then he'll play 20 minutes in the league, then he'll start. I paid this price with my Premier League dream team. I had Foden in there from the start, and I was like, he's class. And he's like, he'd start one game, and then he'd set out, start the next. Pep all season, he saw it. I don't think he'd give his best players that many runs of games. He'd like take the couple in and out here and there. And Foden was one of them. I think Pep's managed him brilliantly because he's only a young lad. People were crying out for him to play last season when he was only is only 19 now, I believe, some 19, 20 now.
Yeah.
He has rushed him. He's easily one of the most talented players in the league, but I didn't put him in because I just don't think he's played enough. Or maybe Pep's brought him to a peak at the right time at this stage of the season. But the first half or quarter, he wasn't getting a run of games. So he's been managed well. But yeah, I wouldn't knock him being the team. Mount again, he's a very good player. He's not as electric as like a Raphinha. I've gone quite attacking. So Mount, he's sort of controlled the game well. And to be quite honest, I know they're in the final next week. I find Chelsea a bit boring, whoever the manager is. I just don't.
Fair enough. Yeah. So we'll move into your strike force then. I'm starting with this man, Harry Kane.
Well, my front two, I think I've gone for the best two footballers in the Premier League. Not just this, well, yeah, this season they be my first two in the PFA Awards I was voting. Harry Kane, well, I'm sure you'll ask me in a minute if I think he'll leave, but obviously I think this year he's been brilliant for years. I think in 2016-17 he scored like 30 Premier League goals. He's only think he got 22 this year, but he got 14 assists. I'm sure you don't follow the Tottenham Facebook page, but they did a post the other day. They showed Harry Kane's 14 assists. If for some people that don't know a lot about his game week in week out, if you watch those 14 assists, probably about 8 or 9 of them you'd expect Zidane to do, like reverse balls, splitting the defence apart, but not. You can blag an assist league table because you can have a 2-yard pass and that's an assist. So it's rubbish, really. But if you watch the video, his assists were unbelievable. Some of the goals he scores are unbelievable. He has dragged us along for most of the season. He's not going to win the PFA Player of the Year. When you get 22 goals and 14 assists from a striker, it's unbelievable to think you won't. But yeah, I think for club and country, I'm pretty sure it's 51 games, 52 goals and assists this season for club and country all competitions. So it's no brainer. If anyone hasn't picked him, then they've done it wrong.
There we go. and to end off your attacking team, I know you found it hard to do a 4-4-2, so you've just stuck this man up front. What a player, Kevin De Bruyne.
Well, yeah. The thing is now there's not many out and out strikers. Like I guess some might have gone with Salah as well, but I think even though he got 21 goals, I think he could have done better. I think could have been him and Manny, Firmino. I think even scoring 21 goals, that they could have done better and dragged Liverpool at the table a bit more. Do you know what I mean? I think they could have grabbed it by the scruff of the neck and gone. But with De Bruyne, although he went 4-4-2, I managed to cheat and get him in for the sole reason for about 80% of the season, Pep hasn't played a striker. So he likes these sort of, I don't know. Got Jesus and Aguero. I don't think either of them got over double figures. I might be wrong, but not much more. So he sort of plays a sort of false number 9. But he hasn't got one false number 9. It's a bit like Spain you might be a bit young to remember, but Spain in the Euros, the World Cup about 8 or 10 years ago, they didn't have a striker. So your centre backs were there waiting, and all of a sudden, one player would drift up front. Next, so it might be De Bruyne drift up front, then he'd drip in the midfield, and Sterling are going up there. Gundogan might make a run in there. Bernardo Silva might go in there. Foden might go in the box. You just don't know who you're picking up when you play this false number 9. So it's a headache for teams to plan tactically defensively. But De Bruyne, obviously he can play the false 9. I think he is a very, very talented player. I'd say he's as talented as probably most players in the Premier League history. I think he is that good. I think his vision, he's one of the sort of players that can hit a ball with no backlift. He's sort of, so he'll just drift around, play where he wants, really, and he knows players can make a run. So, yeah, that was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and who's going to manage this side then? Who's going to be the gaffer that's going to put all of this together to make a winning side?
Oh, I'm going to be boring and people always slate going when you pick the manager who's won the league, but I've gone for Pep. Well, a few reasons. Man City have obviously been by far the best team. I don't really buy into this with the theory where they bang on how much money they've spent, because they've got to be. If you look at what they've spent over the years, they've blown hundreds of millions on players that haven't made it. So he's got to get some players to work. Going back to the Dias, he brought Dias in. He brought Stones in next to him, who's been outstanding. He's managed Foden brilliantly. With Aguero sort of coming to the end of his sort of time, most people were thinking, well, they might do it this year with Kane, but most people would have thought, right, you need a striker. He hasn't. He didn't. He changed the system, just tweaked it slightly. Thought, right, we'll go. Jesus probably isn't good enough for Man City. Aguero's coming to the end. Right, I won't buy a new striker. I'll just tweak it. We'll play a false nine. We'll get the midfielders dip in and out of their defence. It hasn't been one of the best Man City teams. They haven't broken any records that you usually expect. But I think, obviously, just the way he's just brought the best out of a few players that you wouldn't expect to have seasons like they've had. And they just sort of just won it with ease, really. I think they could have won it by more.
Yeah.
When the season was the title was in the bag, I think they took their foot off a little bit. I think they can field two pretty strong 11s. So there's other contenders. Obviously, David Moyes has worked wonders at West Ham. I don't buy into the Bielsa hype as much as some might, but yeah, I think I'll be boring and go for Pep.
Yeah, so let's review this team then. So Martinez and goal, back four of Reece James, Dias, Godfrey and Shaw. The midfield four of Grealish, Gundogan, Fernandes and Raphinha. Front two of De Bruyne and Kane. And a manager of Pep Guardiola. Not a bad side at all, not too shabby. But just before we go, Shaun, mention your Monday night kickoff group on Facebook. Give it a plug.
Monday night kickoff. It's our Facebook group. It's usually local around Frome and Somerset, but we've got quite a few nationwide people on there as well. It's not just football, it's all sorts of sports. We promote local causes, local teams. I try to scour Twitter for any sort of football gossip or rumours, and we obviously plug your show as much as we possibly can. So if anyone wants to join it, it's Monday night kickoff on Facebook.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on and all of your help, Shaun.
That's all right, mate. No worries. See you again.
Thank you very much. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new around here. We will be back very, very soon for another video. From me, come on your lines. I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.